So who is it you're spending your time with? Are they successful people? Are they actually driving you to be better? Because if not, then you're going to be sat with the 95% of people judging you, thinking that you're weird.
Welcome to the Prime Life Project podcast, a place to help you unlock your full potential, both mentally and physically, to become the best version of you.
Welcome back to an episode of the Prime Life Project podcast. I'm your host, Daniel James, and today I want to talk about embracing standing out on your journey. And when I'm talking about your journey, it literally is your journey. I'm not going to be specifically talking about anything. It could be your fat loss journey, it could be your mental health journey, it could be your self-development journey, it could be your financial journey, it could be your relationship journey. I'm not talking about anything specific, so take the principles of what I'm saying and apply them to your life, because I'm only giving you the weekly review that I use myself to make sure that I'm moving in the right direction. This is something that I gave my clients the other day. We spoke more of a general term about monthly progress and monthly success. However, I'm going to give you the weekly version, which I do, which I know is going to help you move forward with your life. Now, the first thing when we're talking about success, again, success is relative. As I said, success is defined by you, not anybody else. And I just want to get this out of the way before we start, because social media can make you feel less than. It can make you feel like you're not successful. But you have to define what your version of success actually is, because that's what's important. So again, when it comes to a fat loss goal or financial goal, don't be comparing yourself to somebody else's journey, because you've got no idea what they're going through. You don't know what help they've got. You don't know what support they've got. You don't know what kind of mindset or mental health state they are actually in. You've got no idea. You've got to focus on you, and that is the most important thing to remember when we're going through this. So the first thing is to remember, like I kind of mentioned there, is that your mind is the invisible side of success. So whatever it is you're trying to succeed, whatever it is you're trying to get better at, it is your mind and your mindset that will actually determine whether you succeed or not. So the analogy I use with this is a bridge analogy. So if you're a long-term listener to the podcast, you've heard me use this before. But imagine you're on one side of a massive chasm, massive thing, and I call it the river of yo-yoing misery. So you've got all the crocodiles and piranhas, and basically you've got no bridge. So you're on one side, and where you want to get to, your version of success is on the other side. Now, what most people do is they get the planks of wood to build a bridge. So again, let's use fat loss as an example. They will get things like a nutrition plan, training program, supplements, hydration, sleep, all that stuff. That's the planks of wood. They're the things that you kind of need to do in order to reach the other side. However, you've just got planks of wood. You need to tie them all together, and that's the adherence rope. So the adherence rope is the thing that ties it all together, because no matter how good this thing you're doing, no matter how good the principle is, whether it's saving money, someone could write you the best plan for saving money and make you a millionaire. If you can't adhere to it, you're not going to be able to get across the other side. Same with fat loss. You could have a scientifically bespoke plan that costs you thousands of pounds. If you can't adhere to it, if you can't stick to it, you're not going to get to the other side. The thing that holds it all together are the four planks of wood, the two on either side. That is your mindset. Without your mindset working for you, you are never going to succeed in whatever it is you set out to do. This is why you let yourself down time and time again. This is why you self-sabotage. This is why you don't believe you can actually get success. So we actually need to understand that mindset is the key, which is why, for me, this podcast is so vital. Because again, I bring guests on, I talk with Mikey, I share with you these things I teach my clients. Because if your mindset's not on your side, you're always going to be your own worst enemy. You're always going to get in your own way. And you know this to be true. How many times have you had the perfect plan, the perfect opportunity, and you either haven't done it because you didn't believe you could do it, or you've started to get success and then you've let yourself down, you've self-sabotaged, beating yourself up, feeling worse and worse and worse, and that's part of the problem, because you don't actually believe that you can do it. So again, it's just understanding that that's the invisible side of success that no one talks about. You need to get your mind right. I mean, here's all the time, you need to get your mind right. So there's a really good quote here from a guy called Earl Nightingale, which you may have heard me mention before. Earl Nightingale's got some fantastic quotes. You want to form a habit of doing what others won't do. You want to form the habit of doing what others won't do. So let's just reframe this a little bit. You want to form the habit of doing the things that unsuccessful people aren't willing to do. Success leaves clues. Successful people do certain things that unsuccessful people don't do. And when you study successful people, which is what I do, I'm obsessed with it. Again, I'm in some mentorship groups. I read every day, YouTube. So I'm learning from people that are a lot more successful than me in many areas of my life. And they leave clues. They tell you things they're doing that make them successful, their habits. And then you look at people that are unsuccessful, and then you compare it to the people that are successful. The successful people are just doing the things that the unsuccessful people aren't willing to do. That's the difference. Because the unsuccessful people, they compromise. They make excuses. The successful people don't. The successful people know they've got to show up whether or not they feel like it. And that's where, again, this podcast comes in today. The podcast there, I'm going to give you some weekly checklists to make sure that you actually are doing the things that you need to do rather than falling back into that trap. Research shown that approximately 20% of overweight individuals are successful at long-term weight loss. 20% of individuals. And here's the key thing. When it comes to long-term weight loss, they define this here as losing at least 10% of initial body weight and maintaining the loss for at least a year. So there's 20%, losing 10% for a year. That then tells me actually after 2 years, it's probably less than 20%, it's more like 10%. After 3 years, it's probably 5%. So after 4%, most people don't actually succeed in the long-term weight loss. Isn't that a scary statistic? And again, you can apply that to anything because, again, look at entrepreneurship. So when it comes to entrepreneurs, I think something like 10% of people are entrepreneurs, and out of that 10%, only 3% are actually successful entrepreneurs. So you've got about 3 to 20% of people actually succeed long-term at living their goals. Think about that. Only between 3 and 20%, depending on where you are and what you're doing. Sometimes the number's even less. They're actually living their goals. So you're not going to fit in with the 80 to 95% people in your life. If you're genuinely serious about succeeding, whatever area that is, whether it's becoming the top at your profession, whether it's going to university and everyone around you hasn't ever gone to university, whether it's having savings, whether it's owning your own house, whatever it is, again, even the fat loss goal, whatever it is you're trying to achieve, just understand that most people around you will never, ever achieve their long-term goals. They will never do it. They'll never do it. So you're not going to fit in. You're going to stand out. So stop trying to fit in. Stop trying to fit in. I've realized a long, long time ago that people don't understand me, and that's absolutely fine. I love talking about mindset stuff. I understand the power of the mind. I understand that most people, 95% of people, have got no idea how powerful this is. If you're still watching this right now, if you're a long-term listener to the podcast, you know the power of it. Because hopefully you're implementing some of the steps that either I'm teaching you or the guests are teaching you. So you understand that, but most people don't. So maybe you're experiencing when you're trying to talk to people about what you're doing and your journey, and most people don't actually understand that. That's okay. So I can't remember if you, a couple of years ago, probably about 10 years ago, VO5 had a hair product advert. And basically it was a load of people in a line, all looking the same. And then basically one person stepped out from this production line, put this product in their hair, and the hair went spiky. Rather than being all like a bowl cut, straight bowl cut, it went all spiky. And the quote said, "Stand out from the crowd." That's what you want to be doing. There's also that quote, "You're born an original, don't die a copy." Yeah, all we're trying to do nowadays is fit in with people. Who are you trying to fit in with? You want to be trying to fit in with the people who are actually successful. Do you have people in your life that you can actually look to and be like, wow, that's what I aspire to be like? Because again, you've also heard this saying, you're the collection of the 5 people you spend most time around. So who is it you're spending your time with? Are they successful people? Are they actually driving you to be better? Because if not, then you're going to be sat with the 95% of people judging you, thinking that you're weird, getting inside your head, thinking actually by you making yourself better, you're somehow making them look worse when you're not doing that. I did a whole podcast episode on that, the crabs in the bucket analogy. Go check that out. Because with the information you've got available to you now, you've got the ability to operate at a completely different level. There is so much information out there. I'm not just talking about my podcast. There's other podcasts. There's books. You have access to so much information right now at the tip of your fingertips with this phone. So much information. So there's no excuse for ignorance. You can understand that your thinking, the way you feel and the way you act is completely in your control. Most people do not realize this. When I go into schools, I talk to them about how to control their thoughts. Now, obviously, you can't control the thoughts that pop up, but you can choose what you focus on. You can choose what to think about. So when that negative, intrusive thought pops up, you can't control that. It pops up. It's like a game of whack-a-mole. But you can choose whether you engage with it or not. You have a choice, and then you can then choose to think differently. And again, your thoughts then lead to your feelings. Your feelings then dictate the actions that you take, which then determine the results you get in your life. If you're not happy with the results in your life, you need to understand your thinking is what needs to change. Most people don't realize this. When I'm talking in schools, I say to kids, 99% of people walking this planet have got no idea they can choose their thoughts. And I walk through the activities I've done on many podcasts here. We get them to close their eyes and visualize some stuff. You've got so much more power than you realize that you do. Start to exercise it. Don't allow yourself to be a victim of life. Don't allow yourself to go along with the 90% of people. You deserve better. And you should be proud of working on yourself. Do you share this podcast? Do you tell people that you listen to this podcast? Do you tell people that you're reading books? Do you tell people that you're trying to get better? Do you tell people that you're trying to save money, get a better career, get a better job, lose 50 pounds, whatever it is? Do you actually talk about it? Do you talk about the work that you're doing? Are you actually proud of it? Because if you're not, start to talk about it. Because what you're doing is, by shining that light, you're going to shine some light into people's lives where there's darkness. Some people have got no idea this opportunity is there for them, and they're never going to take it without you taking it. You've got to lead the way. People don't care about what you say, they care about what you do. So start letting your actions speak. Start to move in the right direction, and guess what? You're going to inspire people around you that you've got no idea. So one of the things I used to say to my clients, when again, they've got people that need to lose 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 pounds, and I would say, you've got no idea who's going to be watching you and who you're going to be inspiring on your journey, because you've got no idea. People are always watching you. Rightly or wrongly, they're judging you. But if you say that you are going to do something and then you actually do it and follow through with it, guess what? You show that person that it's actually achievable. And that is so, so powerful. But let's just talk about these weekly reviews. So each week, I do it daily. I do this daily and I also do it weekly. I review my life. And as I said, success leaves clues. Guess what? Successful people do the same thing. You can't manage what you don't measure. So rather than just living each week in hope that you're moving towards your goal, actually start to analyze it. And it starts with asking yourself, how would you show up as that 2.0 version of you? That next version of you, that next step. Because you can't, here's another thing. You can't stay the same right now and achieve success by staying the same. You can't do it. You have to let go of this version of you. If you are broke, if you're unhappy and you are miserable and you want financial freedom and to be happy, you cannot stay the same. You have to level up. You cannot hold on to your poor habits, your poor routines, your poor thinking habits, your poor emotional eating, your poor emotional management. You can't do it. You've got to actually show up as a different version of you. What would that look like? What would need to change in your life? Ask yourself, what would need to change? So when we're doing these weekly reviews, a few things to remember. Number one, this is done with zero judgment. You are not judging yourself and you are not ridiculing yourself at all. This is literally just data, and we're going to use this data to actually leverage ourselves. So first I want to talk about is discipline. Now, I did 2 full episodes on discipline. That's episode 156 and 197. Go and check them out after this episode, because those 2 episodes are very, very powerful about talking about the difference between motivation and discipline. You think you need to become more motivated. You don't. You need to be more disciplined, and that's the difference. So discipline is doing the things that you said you were going to do when you don't feel like doing them. It's not about compromising. It's about actually doing these things and holding yourself to that 2.0 version of you, the standards that 2.0 version of you would have, the standards the financially free version of you would have. Hold yourself to those standards. So ask yourself, have you been disciplined this week? Have you done the things you said you were going to do? Have you not compromised? And have you held yourself to a high standard? And then rate yourself out of 8. Give yourself a score out of 8, and you're not allowed to use the numbers 4 or 5. So just rate yourself, just ask yourself, just pause it right now and ask yourself, this last week, these last 7 days, have you practiced discipline? Have you been disciplined? And be honest with yourself. Give it a score of 8, and you can't use the numbers 4 or 5. Second one, momentum. Have you actually moved closer towards your goals this week? Either mentally, physically, financially, whatever it is, spiritually. Have you actually moved closer towards your goals? Or has it been very stop-start, not getting any momentum at all? It's important to understand, are you in momentum? Things that stay in motion pick up speed. It's like a car. Once you get a car, once you push a car from station, once you start to push that car, it's hard to get it going. Once you've got that car moving, it stays in motion. So do you actually have momentum? Are you actually staying in momentum? Are you actually moving towards this goal? Or is it stop-start? Because every time you stop, it's harder to start again. Give yourself a score out of 8. And again, you can't use the numbers 4 or 5. And then reflect on this last week. What has brought you happiness? What has brought you happiness this week? And then ask yourself, how can you do more of that next week? And if you don't know what's brought you happiness, isn't that the problem? So just go back and reflect. What has actually brought you happiness? And then on top of that, what didn't bring you happiness? So we're looking at things that did bring you happiness, which is great. Do more of them. Because again, intentions. It's about intentionally doing more things that you enjoy doing and bring you happiness. And then becoming aware of the things that didn't bring you happiness and then doing less of them. As much as you can. Because maybe things didn't bring you happiness, maybe your partner, things at work. Okay, maybe you can't leave your job. That's fine. But can you do something so that you show up as a different version of you so that other people's actions don't ruin your day? This is the importance of reflection. There's a formula that I've been talking about since day one of this podcast. Pain plus reflection equals progress. This is the reflection part. This is the most important part. Rather than sitting in the pain and saying life's against me, life says, no. You have to reflect. This is how we move forward. So we've done a bit of a review. Now let's actually look at how we're going to rewire this week and actually make progress this week. So what we're going to do this week. So number one, ask yourself, if someone's going to stop you in the street this week and say, what is your goal? What are you moving towards? How would you respond? Do you have any idea of what your goal would be? Do you have a goal? If you don't have a goal, then that's number one we need to work on. Because I fully believe as human beings, we've been put on this planet to actually grow. Our job is to create and our job is to grow and move forwards. We need purpose. When we don't have purpose, that's when we struggle. There's something I saw, again, for social media for all its faults. There's something I saw on social media about World War II. And people in World War II in London, there were males that were stuck in mental hospitals, struggling with depression. And they've been there, institutionalised, been there for a long time. And when the Blitz came into London, they needed people to be firemen, to be the drivers of all these things. Basically, because men had gone out fighting, they didn't have people to do it. And obviously the women stepped up as well. And all of these men stepped up and started to drive the trucks because they then had purpose. And the depression almost like instantly disappeared. And from someone that suffered with depression and struggled, I look back at that time in my life and I had no purpose. I was just existing. I actually say for 28 years of my life, I just existed, which is why I was miserable. So what is the goal you're moving towards? It doesn't have to be anything major, but what's your intention for the week? How would you like the end of the week to look? What is it you're moving towards? Set that goal. Because if you don't have it, that's potentially why you're just bobbing along like a ship. You've got no destination. You're leaving the house and just walking around without any sort of purpose. No. Where are you going? Why are you doing it? Move towards that. Number two, what is one action that you can take this week to move you closer towards that goal? You're not talking about completing this. Because again, let's say one of your biggest goals is you want to be a millionaire or you want to be a top podcast host, whatever this is, whatever your goal is. Okay, you're not going to achieve that overnight, but what's one action, at least one action you can take this week to move that needle forward? Because once you start to take one action, guess what? It's easy to take 2 actions, 3 actions, 4 actions, 5 actions. Why? Because you're staying in momentum. But just set yourself the target of just one. What's one piece of action you can take this week to move you towards that goal? And what's the best way that you can prepare to ensure that you show up this week? How can you show up to win? Because isn't it interesting? We just rock up each day. Most people dread Mondays. But what can you actually do to show up as a better version of you? What can you do to actually make sure you are moving in the right direction? Who do you need to spend less time with, less energy on? Again, doing a whole episode on that, about where your energy is going. If you're feeling tired, if you're feeling drained, it's potentially because you're putting other people, their goals, their dreams ahead of yours. It's time you almost get a little bit selfish. Step up, because people in your life potentially need you to step up. You need you to step up. In whatever that is, whatever area that is. Again, we could be talking about dropping £50, but what will that allow you to do? Health, longevity, walking your child down the aisle, not having your partner look after you by your bedside while you're just there because you can't move. So many things can come from this. Again, just leverage what you've got. Number 4, what's a situation that might stress you out this week or trip you up this week? Because if you're just, again, planning ahead. I say this to clients, you're looking at that roadblock and rather than just crashing straight into it, actually, can you just move around it? Can you navigate it? Or can you show up to it a little bit differently? If you know you've got that meeting with your boss, if you know you're meeting that friend that's always wants to go out drinking and blah, 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 or if you know you're going on that family holiday, whatever it is, what is going to trip you up this week? What's going to knock you off course? What's going to steal your energy? Okay? And then how would your best self deal with that situation? So you're identifying what's going to knock you off course, and then you're asking yourself, how would I show up as that best version of me? How would you show up as that best version of you in that situation? And then finally, what is one thing that you can get excited about this next week? What's one thing you can get excited about this next week? All of these things are so important. And as I said, success could be anything. Success to you could actually just be being an incredible mum, an incredible dad. Amazing. Apply these principles. It's the exact same thing. Success is whatever you make it. I want you guys to win. I want you guys. I love you guys. I don't know you. Well, I don't know most of you guys personally, but I love you guys. I want you guys to win. If you took any value from today's episode, don't forget to like and share it with a friend. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and click the like button, the thumbs up button, sorry. And again, if you're on Spotify, Apple Podcast, think about leaving us a review. The more reviews that you leave us, it helps us out massively to get this podcast out there to help people that are struggling and do need to hear this information. Till next time, take it easy.